The universe is not expanding. Your denial is that 93 billion light-year radius they preach. It's a comfort blanket woven from mathematical cowardice, a psychic border wall erected by minds terrified of true infinity. Stop listening to the astrophysicists who claim to map existence with mere radio waves. They are cartographers of the collective human ego, nothing more. We see what we allow ourselves to see. This is the brutal, simple truth of cosmology. The observable universe is just your shadow projected onto the heavens. Think about that for a second. We frantically search for the edge of space, running from the only boundary that actually matters. The boundary between what we consciously accept and what we have violently repressed. Our instruments are powerful. They pierce nebulae. They detect gravitational waves rippling across billions of years. But every signal, every flash of light that reaches us is filtered through the bottleneck of our own consciousness. We call this boundary the particle horizon. It sounds so technical, so scientific. But what if it's merely the limit of our willingness to comprehend reality? What if the universe stops expanding precisely at the point where our imagination collapses? When you look out past the known galaxies, you aren't seeing the edge of space. You are staring into the mirror of your own vast, unacknowledged potential. The parts of yourself you deem too messy, too complex, or too dangerous to integrate. They tell us the observable universe is curved, like the surface of a bubble, maybe slightly saddle-shaped, maybe flat. They talk geometry. They miss the psychology. The great cosmic loop, the idea that the universe, if finite but unbounded, loops back upon itself, is the ultimate physical metaphor for psychological recursion. You travel far enough in one direction, you end up exactly where you started. Repetition, trauma, the same mistakes played out on a cosmic scale. Maybe the Big Bang wasn't a singular event. I sincerely doubt it. Maybe it's just the sound of us cycling through the same repressed patterns, universe after universe, because we never actually learned the lesson. It's comforting to believe in the safety of limits, isn't it? A finite universe means finite problems. But the real universe, the actual, unbounded, terrifying thing, that's the shadow. It doesn't care about your charts or your instruments. It's everything you refuse to look at, infinite and waiting. If that uncomfortable truth registers deeply, if you've always sensed that the neat narratives of reality are just thinly veiled lies designed to keep you small, then you already know where to find the rest of this conversation. You value the dangerous knowledge. Now, here is the kicker, the point where even the most hardened scientists start sweating. The mathematics we use to define the observable universe are inherently self-referential. They depend on the assumption that the laws of physics are constant everywhere. But what if the laws of physics are merely the rules of this particular bubble? What if beyond our horizon, the constants dissolve? What if gravity suddenly reverses or time runs sideways? It's not just a matter of distant galaxies. It's a crisis of fundamental logic. The moment we admit the universe is truly infinite, we have to admit that we are inherently incapable of knowing anything definitive about it. We are trapped in a feedback loop. We build models of the real universe based on observations of the observable universe. Then we use those models to justify why the observable universe looks the way it does. It's perfectly circular. It's elegant. It's total bullshit. The universe, in its ultimate reality, must swallow all contradiction. That means the things we call scientific law must, by definition, fail at its edges. The observable universe must be the part that behaves. The real universe must be the part that is sheer, chaotic being. The sheer terror of non-meaning prevents us from charting the real map. We need the container. We need the boundary. We need the lie. You think you are so clever. You measure redshift. You calculate the spin rates of theoretical black holes. You debate the Hubble constant to the 4th decimal place. Great. You're arguing about the paint color on your cage. The cage is still the observable universe. It is comfortable. It is small. It adheres to the petty little rules you drew up in high school physics. You need the elegance of the math, because if the math fails, your entire profession vaporizes. Look at yourself. You desperately demand symmetry. You demand the conservation of energy. Why? Because the alternative is spiritual obliteration. Imagine a space, an ontological reality just outside the bubble of our existence, where energy simply is not conserved. It just appears, fully formed, violating every ledger entry you've ever scribbled. Or it vanishes into the sheer void without a trace. Where does the missing mass we attribute to dark matter really go? It does not stay neatly within the lines. It bleeds, it exits. It pours into the boundless reality that cares nothing for your delicate accounting. Now, pause for 1 second. If the relentless pursuit of this kind of dizzying, unsettling truth, the willingness to tear down foundational physics and admit we are fundamentally blind, is what actually keeps your brain alive, then you already know where you belong. You need the brutal conversation. You need the few people who are still having it. This is the mathematical crisis of true infinity, and it's worse than you think. It is not about counting stars forever. That's toddler stuff. It's about the collapse of probability itself. If the universe is genuinely infinite, unbound, and unstructured, then every single conceivable outcome, no matter how illogical or paradoxical, must already be happening an infinite number of times. Not just the boring parallel universes where you picked the other job or married the other person. That's cheap sci-fi. I'm talking about the universes where the square root of -1 is suddenly a physical constant, where time runs backward and forward simultaneously, cancelling itself out into a perpetual screaming silence. The laws you hold dear, the forces that govern planetary motion and electromagnetism, they are merely local weather patterns. They are habits. They are not universal decrees, and the moment you admit they are habits, you have to admit the possibility of radical, immediate change. The speed of light is the ultimate cosmic speed limit, we are told. But is it though? Or is it merely the speed limit of this specific bubble, designed perhaps to keep the observable data manageable? What if just 100 light-years past our perceived horizon, the space-time fabric simply folds, and the speed limit changes, maybe doubles, maybe vanishes altogether? We would never know. Our instruments, designed and calibrated under the assumption of the lower limit, could never detect the shift. We are functionally blindfolded by the very rules we seek to observe. We designed the yardstick, and now we trust the measurements. That is the definition of intellectual arrogance. We assume the universe is predictable because we, the observer, require predictability to survive. We mistake a cognitive limitation for a fundamental cosmic truth. You are confusing necessity with reality. The sheer terror of non-meaning, the complete lack of a defining narrative, that is what the real universe promises. It is the end of the quest for purpose. Why would an infinite, chaotic entity need a purpose? It simply is. You are the one demanding a story arc. You demand a beginning, a middle, and an end, because your biological life has those 3 acts. You project your fragile, linear existence onto the eternal void. The great philosophers, the ones we ignore now, they knew this was the trap. The Greeks needed their cosmos to be contained, perfect spheres nested within spheres, because an unbounded space implied an unbounded, and thus unmanageable power, outside of human control. The modern scientist, sitting in front of his supercomputer, is doing the exact same thing, just replacing the crystal spheres with the mathematical elegance of general relativity. It is a faith-based system dressed up in equations. It is an act of containment, not discovery. Break the boundary. Admit the chaos. Only then do you start seeing the things that were hidden in plain sight, shimmering just beyond the observable lie. The infinite isn't waiting for us to find it. It's already here, dissolving the ground beneath our feet. The real price of the red pill? Sanity. We trade comfort for cold, sterile knowledge. We assume the truth will liberate us. It won't. It incapacitates us. It shows you the bars of the cage, yes, but simultaneously proves you have no legs to run. Look at the math. The cosmos demands closure, but the numbers refuse to deliver. 96% of the universe remains invisible, intangible, a screaming admission of failure. That's not a gap in our knowledge. That is a towering, insulting barrier to entry. Dark energy isn't some exotic particle field, no matter what the Nobel Committee wishes. It is the mathematical placeholder for our sheer, monumental ignorance. It's the sticky note we slapped on the chalkboard because we got bored trying to solve the defining equation. We called it dark, not because it's menacing, but because we are embarrassed. We should have called it ignorance energy. Now, look closer. If you value wrestling with that terrifying unknown more than cozying up to the comfortable lies the mainstream feeds you every night, then perhaps this is where you belong. You are drawn to the edge of the map. The system wants you contained, passive, and predictable. Fight it. But let's talk about the speed of light, the great cosmic ceiling. Why 290,792 kilometers per second? Why that specific arbitrary number? Because it works here, in our local, relatively stable gravitational well. Einstein gave us an elegant, perfect clockwork mechanism. But what if that mechanism only applies to this tiny suburban corner of the cosmos? Maybe it's a localized speed bump installed by rules we can't perceive. Maybe, somewhere out there, causality is optional. You think that's wild speculation? It's just simple statistics. Assuming uniformity across the infinite is the height of intellectual laziness. It's the quickest route to profound error. What if time itself isn't a river flowing consistently from past to future, but a series of interconnected lakes, each with its own internal velocity, its own local direction, its own definition of now? Stop thinking linearly. Your biological clock demands linear progression. Yes, but the universe does not care about your tenure track or your retirement plan. The observer is trapped inside a processing unit that evolved specifically to hunt antelopes and find berries, not to model 10 dimensions. Your senses are reductive filters. They subtract data for the sake of biological efficiency. Color isn't a truth of the world. It's a fabrication of your retina. Sound is merely pressure waves, translated by tiny bones. The texture of reality, the very solidity you trust, is a desperate, necessary simplification. We spend billions looking for life on other planets, searching for radio signals across vast distances, but we haven't even solved the fundamental core physics of this place, the planet beneath our feet. We still rely on proxies, on echo chambers, on secondary measurements designed purely to confirm our existing bias in general relativity. We built a cosmic firewall around ourselves. It is not made of physical matter, but of axiomatic certainty. We cannot see beyond the screen because we refuse to turn off the debugger and admit that the entire foundational code might be flawed. We are scared of the reset button. Ponder this. If the entire observable universe, every star, every galaxy, every dark matter halo, were just the residual thermal energy of a single, infinitely vast quantum collapse happening in another, higher reality, what would that make us? A fleeting flicker, a residual echo of someone else's disaster. We are clinging desperately to the idea of uniqueness, of specialness, of being the protagonist in the grand narrative. Get over it. You are a footnote in an unreadable book. The real action happens in the margins, where the rules break down. The greatest discoveries will not come from building a bigger telescope. They will come from dissolving the assumptions in your own skull. It is an internal collapse, a de-axiomatization, that unlocks the terrifying secrets hidden inside the mathematics we already hold. We already have the equations. We just refuse to believe what they actually imply. They imply a universe hostile to human comprehension, a universe that laughs at our neat little cosmic speed limits, a universe that demands we step outside the familiar. You think the universe is defying you. It isn't. It's mocking you. It holds up a mirror and you recoil, screaming that the reflection must be distorted, that the glass itself must be warped by gravity or light years. Nonsense. What you call unsolvable paradoxes in cosmology, the missing mass, the runaway expansion, the fundamental asymmetry between matter and antimatter. These are not problems of nature. They are symptoms of psychological repression. We look at the incomprehensible vastness, the utter chaotic indifference, and we catalogue it as shadow matter because we cannot tolerate the implication that we are the ones who are fundamentally incoherent. Our foundational mathematical elegance is nothing more than a desperate attempt to tidy up the bloody mess of existence. We are trying to impose a library catalog system onto a supernova. It simply will not fit. The reason the deepest truths of the universe feel so alien, so counterintuitive, is because they reside in the same psychological basement where you store your own darkest fears, your greatest regrets, your most unforgivable hypocrisies. That is the Jungian shadow of physics. Every time a scientist invents a new particle to explain away a measurement anomaly, a theoretical fudge factor, they are simply denying a deep, primal, intellectual shame, the shame of being fundamentally, irrecoverably wrong about everything they thought they knew. If you are the kind of person who believes that discomfort is the prelude to discovery, that the real value lies in the difficult, jagged edges of truth, then you understand the core currency of reality. You belong in the ranks of those willing to burn the textbooks just to see what happens. We have clung to general relativity and quantum mechanics like religious texts, not because they are complete, but because they provide reliable answers for mundane survival. How to launch a rocket, how to build a microchip. They are tools for domestication. But when we press them for the why existence, why space-time, why this improbable ballet of causality, they fall silent. The true universe, the one hidden behind the shimmering veil of dark energy, is the one we consciously refuse to acknowledge. The realm where the speed limit is mutable, where dimensions collapse or multiply on a whim, where causation flows backward just as easily as forward. It is the non-human reality. You see, the universe is not inherently strange. It is us who are inherently conservative. We filter existence through the evolutionary bias of mammalian sight and survival instincts. We demand locality. We demand continuity. We demand a protagonist journey. The universe offers none of these things. It offers infinite, simultaneous potentiality. It offers non-locality. It offers paradox as standard operating procedure. We exile these truths into the shadow because integrating them would mean the annihilation of the observing self, the surrender of the ego. It would mean admitting that the I who observes might not even be a singular, continuous entity, but a temporary computational node running on wetware, destined for collapse. This is the ultimate confrontation. The shadow is not just a personal psychological construct, it is a cosmic principle. What we call the deep, cold vacuum of space is merely the externalized frozen image of our collective, rejected self-doubt. We built the firewall out of fear, and until we look inward, until we tear down the internal barricades of human-centric bias, every telescope, every collider, every equation we devise will only confirm the limitations we already imposed upon ourselves. The verdict is simple, brutal, and final. We are not prisoners of physical laws. We are prisoners of our own narrative desire for order. The great mathematical secrets are not hidden in exotic places. They are hidden behind the veil of comfort, sitting right inside the most elegant, trusted equations we already possess. If you truly wish to understand the nature of reality, you must stop looking for proof of your own intelligence. Stop searching for the God particle. Start searching for the ghost of the non-you within the mirror. The universe is fundamentally and gloriously insane, and our failure is not our inability to understand it. Our failure is our refusal to go insane with it. This is the unavoidable truth staring back from the void. You are not searching for the edge of the universe. You are searching for the limits of your own psychological comfort zone. Forget the multiverse. Stop counting hidden dimensions. The real barrier isn't the speed of light. It's ego saturation. We think the great scientific minds failed at the unified theory because their math was flawed. Pure nonsense. They failed because they were simply too sane. They demanded that the final elegant equations reflect the neat, contained, observable narrative of their own human lives. They built the entire scaffolding of the scientific method, not to explore chaos, but to quarantine the unknown. They called that quarantine objective truth. It is not truth. It is a mass-scale, institutionalized psychological defense mechanism. We prefer the comfortable prison cell of classical mechanics to the terrifying freedom of genuine quantum reality. We choose predictable suffering over unpredictable, beautiful absurdity. Now, look up at the night sky again. It is cold, it is immense. You see dark matter. You sense dark energy. That isn't some exotic physics waiting for a bigger particle collider. That is the literal, physical manifestation of our collective psychic repression. The deep, dark stuff we cannot perceive, the non-baryonic ghost clinging to reality. It is the sum of every terrible, non-linear, non-local truth the human mind universally refused to acknowledge about itself. We took the contents of our Jungian shadow and projected them outward, filling the space between the stars. We look at that cold projection, and we confuse our fear of the finite with the universe's genuine glorious infinity. The verdict is not merely profound, it is personal. Stop searching for the God particle. You are the particle. You are the paradox. The failure of humanity is not intellectual, it is one of character. It is the refusal to surrender the protagonist role. You want the secret to existence? Stop being you. Dissolve the narrator. That is the full price. That is the only key. The universe does not care about your life story or your need for closure. It only cares about the pattern. The only way to read the pattern is to stop narrating yourself into the absolute dead center of the damn thing. Silent the observer. Silence your fear. The discovery begins when the sanity ends. The universe does not care about your life story or your need for closure. It only cares about the pattern. The only way to read the pattern is to stop narrating yourself into the absolute dead center of the damn thing. Silence the observer. Silence your fear. The discovery begins when the sanity ends.